Thank you, Stacy. Thank you to all of our panelists, for sharing your stories and your experiences. I want to ask a general question, and then I will invite our committee members to ask questions if they like. Each of you described your engagement with different programs, and as we learn about programs that support parents of young children, I wonder if you can give us your recommendations for how to involve parents who may not seek the services, who may not identify as needing the services. Each of you has given very eloquent stories about the impact of the programs on you, but what are the secrets for engaging parents who may not understand or may not appreciate that they could benefit from those programs? Lucy, are you doing translation?
I sure am.
Okay, perfect. I didn't know if I needed to. So it's a general question about how to engage people who might benefit from a program, but who may not appreciate that or may not be ready for it or may disagree. So what recommendations would you have about engaging parents in programs in that context? And maybe just for ease, we can go down the table to make sure that everyone has a chance to respond. Clarissa, if you could start.
So when I first started my job at Parent Voices Oakland, which, by the way, we advocate for affordable quality childcare, I didn't get a chance to say that, and I worked as an organizer first before moving into my role as executive director. And one of the first things that a few people told me was, Black families don't turn out for events. That you might be able to organize a Latino community because they're more community oriented, but if you're going to work with African American communities, they tend to not show up to stuff, which I took issue with. That's a mild way to put it. And you know, the idea that folks either don't know what they need or won't come to something to get what they need. And what I found was the way we were asking was wrong. The way we were engaging folks was wrong. So I would say being self-reflective first and foremost as an organization or an agency is critical. And also looking at the cultural competency in the practices that you're using to engage families. And then what worked for us, me engaging my community as an African American woman, was looking at the leadership potential in every family and the potential for every parent to be an ambassador in their community and communicate the information necessary in a way that other parents can hear. That was critical. And we started getting 40 and 50 people in the door and I don't have enough staff for all the parents that are there.
Thank you, Clarissa. Sergio?
For me, it's just doing the footwork, taking it, saying actions speak louder than words. Touch on how there is a spotlight on us men in our community, especially where I'm at and where I was raised, to just do the work and keep continuing to do the work. And that's why, you know, I'm on the road that I am, and I'm not going to stop being there for the children, but the fathers as well, you know, and motherhood, because motherhood is sacred also. That's a big, we push that, you know, it is. But just to encourage the dads and just to make sure that we're doing the right thing, that we're even could be a role model to another man, you know, which in my community, there is 34-year-olds like me that are just looking to be a part of something, that's looking to get some positive stuff in his life. So as we continue to keep doing the work, I think they will keep walking through the door and coming, flocking to our, I would say, we're more like family. I hate to use the word program. We're all like family, but they're going to keep walking through the door, and they're going to be part of our family, our net of friends. And we will support their families like we support ours. We will support them like we supported the next brother that came through the door, or the next mother or sister that came through the door, with that welcoming feeling as well. So the footwork is being done, and I think that people flock to that. People flock to good. So we're going to continue to I will continue to keep doing the work. So.
Thank you, Sergio. María?
Y pienso que algunas de las cosas que hace que los padres estén interesados en los programas
I think that one of the things that makes parents be interested in the programs
es no asumir que todos los padres tienen la misma y suficiente información.
Is to not assume that all the parents have the same information and enough information.
Otro punto importante es que el tema a desarrollarse tenga relevancia y especialmente relevancia cultural para nuestros padres.
Another thing is that the subject that you're going to discuss needs to have relevance, and especially relevance to who you're talking to, and parents.
Otro punto importante es crear un ambiente de bienvenida para los padres donde ellos deseen regresar porque son bien recibidos, porque se les recibe con una sonrisa, donde no hay discriminación, donde no hay racismo.
You really need to create an environment where parents feel welcome. We can't say it enough. They need to feel like they're in a place where there's no racism, there's no discrimination, where they are welcomed there.
Y por último, estar preparados. Porque a veces se piensa, son padres, ahí les decimos cualquier cosa. No, estar preparados.
And lastly, to be prepared, because many times we say, oh, you know, he's just a parent, whatever, let's just tell him. No, you really need to be prepared.
Y que el padre se sienta que ese tiempo que se vino a sentar, no vino a escucharte, vino a aprender, vino a crecer. Y lo más importante de abriendo puertas es que el padre muchas veces es el que nos enseña a nosotros.
And we need to know that parents don't just come there to sit and listen. They're here to interact. They want to learn. And many times, they are the ones teaching us. And that's what we know full well at Abriendo Puertas, opening doors.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias, Maria. Stacy?
I have to agree with what they've all said. I think having access to information and having the information available is extremely important. A lot of it is lack of communication and miscommunication sometimes. And sometimes, you know, parents don't have the information available to them. And sometimes I think we assume that parents have the information and maybe they just don't. And they don't have access to information. I think a lot of that goes on. I know it does, you know, and in our communities, sometimes we just assume the parents know, and oftentimes they just don't. So I think making sure they have the information, they have access to the information, and making it easy and accessible to parents. You know, oftentimes it's not easy enough for them, it's not accessible enough for them, you know, and making it comfortable I think is really important too. You know, that ease and that comfort is very, very important, especially when you're dealing with little kids, you know, and you're hauling around your entire brood. You know, that's really important too.
Thank you. I would like to open it up for committee members who have questions or comments to pose to our panel. Feel free to come and use the mic. Committee members, okay. Well, anyone in the audience is also welcome to ask a question. Kim, don't be shy. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Kim Bowler from the committee. I just wanted to ask a bit too, as we were talking about, when you feel or come to a program and you are looking for something in particular as a parent, what are the things that make you feel most welcome? What is it that you're looking for? I know, you know, for my own experience, and I think some of what I've heard you say, for example, when I would go, the transition when my child was going to elementary school and I wanted to be part of the PTA, for example, I really did want to make a connection, right? I wanted to meet another parent because it was a whole new setting. I didn't know these folks. I was a working mom, you know, and the teachers weren't able to make those connections. It wasn't part of what they saw as their job. And so I left the meeting not really meeting other parents. There weren't name tags, for example. So when you go into a room or go into a building and so on, or what have you found that makes you feel comfortable? What are the things programs can do? What are the kinds of things that you would like to see happen that make you feel welcome, or that in your experience in the places that you've been can be things that are good recommendations that programs can do to build those connections among parents?
Anyone can respond.
Cuando hablamos de ambiente de bienvenida, pues no es solamente el ambiente físico, el ambiente que está a la par de los padres,
But
sino
when we speak of this environment, it's not just physical. That's not the only thing we mean.
Pero a veces cuando nos ponen a los padres, dice, ¿dónde se reúnen los padres? Allá traes la que está al final del campo.
Sometimes when it's about parents, they always say, so where are the parents meeting? Do you know where? And they say, yeah, all the way in the back, the last bungalow behind the field.
Y pues tenemos que usar muchas técnicas, poner rótulos, hablar con las personas que atienden a la gente la primera vez que los ven.
We have to use a lot of techniques. So we'll put signs, we'll talk to people, and we'll really talk to the ones who are going to be the first people they encounter when they walk in.
Pero sobre todo cuando un padre venga, bienvenido, pase adelante. O sea, recibirlo además de una sonrisa, que él sienta que está siendo bienvenido.
But truly, it's about a feeling. It's like when they walk in, you go, welcome. We want you to feel welcome. And the way you say it and the warmth that you impart, they know that that's where they belong.
Y que sienta sobre todo que ese día que él va a estar sentado ahí va a ser una inversión para él.
We want him or her to feel that this day, I am really making an investment.
And I just want to quickly comment, in my organization, when I've spoken with parents and just in my own personal experience, oftentimes parents are not made to feel welcome because people, there's a stigma, or people look down on their children and the way that they're showing up with their children. In a lot of waiting rooms and offices and lines, people often look down on children being children, particularly if those children are, people of color. And so what we've done is really focused on making the experience one that's very positive for children, which I've heard other panelists talk about, making sure that we're welcoming children, that we always have childcare, we always have great childcare at our meetings, and that the community problem solves if there is an issue, or if families aren't feeling supported around, the children, that's something that we hold at the center. So.
I would also say that whoever's in charge of running your meeting or whoever's doing the programming needs to be really welcoming and make a point to actually welcome them in and bring them in. Because if whoever's like running your table or running that front piece, if they're like really cold and standoffish and they're like, oh, here's your name tag, and that's like it, and there's like nobody else around to like kind of bring them in and make them feel a part and kind of take them back and kind of get them moving and kind of get that networking piece going, it's a dead event. You know what I mean?
Sergio, did you want to add something?
Yeah, real quick, just for the first part, and then for the second part. But when I went down to the health center, I was running for help. So I needed help, and I knew I needed it. I went in because I wanted to keep my family together. So then when I got there, it was like they all said, it was super welcoming. I mean, the first day that I did go there, we all went out to eat. They paid for me. I had a pocket full of money. They paid for me. I could have paid my own bill. No, I didn't really want to go. I didn't really want to go. I really didn't want to be a part of this. But it felt so good. It was so welcoming that the safe environment that was created, that I think that we build down there, a happy and safe environment. That's what we really push. I felt it. As a grown man, I felt safe and invited and welcomed like I was at home. So that's, I think, universal for all what we're saying. It's just that's a big key. It's a big part of welcoming families, welcoming men, welcoming mothers. So.
Thank you. We have 7 minutes left, so I'm going to ask the people standing to ask a brief question, and we will try to have one person respond to it so we can make through everything. Barbara.
My question has to do with some of the programs that are trying to help parents help their children be successful are trying to help the parents teach the kids middle-class practices for getting along in school, like asking lots of questions or talking in a certain way that might conflict with some of the practices at home. So I'm wondering, in your experience, what are ways that the programs can help parents not undermine the cultural practices that they want to maintain, and at the same time help the kids learn some practices that will help them in school?
Who would like to respond to that?
Our Parents as Teachers program kind of does that, especially for a lot of our immigrant families that come in, because we have a lot of immigrants, especially in our North Kansas City School District. We have a lot of refugees that come to our district. We just took in 22 refugees from Burma just within this past year. And since most of them are refugees, they've never been in school before. So a lot of that was training of what does school look like? What does school behavior look like? Because they don't know what that interaction looks like at all or how to act in school. So a lot of that was, what does it look like to sit in a school setting? What does it look like to, sit down and raise your hand and do those things? What does it look like to act in school? Because they've never seen those things. So a lot of that was training them for getting them ready to be in a classroom. So our Parents as Teachers program, especially for those younger ones that are getting ready to enter kindergarten this fall, was giving them that training before they'll head there this fall. So they're kind of like doing boot camp this summer for our preschoolers that will head to kindergarten this fall. So they're getting a lot of that going now.
Thank you. Rick?
This is a question for Stacy. You seem like a real advocate for parents as teachers, but you're also a teacher, and there are only so many dollars to go around. And I'm wondering sort of how your teachers group views the competition between early childhood programs like Parents as Teachers and the resources available for elementary and regular education.
We're currently really lucky in the state of Missouri. The state of Missouri currently does fund Parents as Teachers as a state. So we actually have state funds set aside for early childhood education. And then our district actually sets aside separate funding for our early childhood programming. So currently we have separate state funding, and then we have separate local funding for early childhood programming. So currently we're extremely lucky where we are. I will say that the state next door to us, Kansas, has completely cut early childhood funding completely. They will not even pay for kindergarten in Kansas. So, it's right next door to us. And since I live in Kansas City, it is literally next door, and it is a scary, scary thought. But for us currently in Missouri, we're extremely fortunate.
Thank you. Sam?
Stacy, this is also for you, but as a parent rather than a teacher. So the themes that have come up in our discussions have focused on poverty and cultural diversity, ethnicity, and you talked about having a child with a special need or disability, and there are systems that have been set up to catch or to respond to the needs of parents who have children with disabilities, and that maybe we may be able to learn from those systems, although they don't always work perfectly, sometimes imperfectly. Are there things that you, as a parent whose child was probably identified very early, received that was helpful to you in general in services?
Yeah, we obviously were identified very early on, obviously at birth because of being a spina bifida identification. And then, of course, after being in Parents as Teachers, we had a Denver 2 test early on that identified delays in Parents as Teachers for educational delays. So we had lots of identification very, very early on for educational delays. Which allowed us the option of going to special education preschool within our school district, which we actually opted not to do, and we selected parochial preschool within our church, which was our faith-based, we preferred. But now I've just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Were there early supports that may have been, or supports that were provided for you as a parent that you found helpful?
There were. The district also provides like a lot of parent support meetings that they do. We have it's called Pleasant Valley Early Childhood Center, and they have parent meetings for parents of special needs children. And then you can go and find out more information about any kids with special needs and things like that. And they have meetings, and there's actually a coordinator who runs those programs through Pleasant Valley for those parents. So they do a really, really good job early on of kind of helping those parents know kind of what's it going to be like? You know, what is it, especially those parents that have never had a child on an IEP. For those of you who don't know what an IEP is, it's an individual education plan. So if you don't know what an IEP is, you've never had to go to an IEP meeting, you know, what you can expect your first time through, what does those meetings look like, you know, kind of what to expect is kind of a way to kind of run you through one before you actually have to do one. They do a really nice job of that.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, panelists. We really learned a lot and value your participation.